actually also want to have children now specifically is because I would want to be stable enough to give them anything that they want, whatever they want, and you'd obviously want to be a bit more healed in terms of the stuff that you are going through, so that you can be the best parent for that child. Um, I think now, okay, I will still most definitely be committed still, but I think if you had that heavy heartbreak or whatever, you want to stay away for a bit. You want
So
to
would you agree that
recuperate.
you're
Yeah,
not
I would. I'm
as
not like
committed, right?
you're not
So
as committed
the
now.
younger, the
Yeah.
better to
The younger
get
the
you
better. Yeah.
committed. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
and as far as kids and what they want, do we really know what they want until they are here? And
No.
also, how does a child who's maybe 1 or 2 years old value money and the things that for me, when I define like taking care of a child, raising a child, developing a child, these are totally different things. So a lot of people
Hmm.
look at money as, and financial stability as the only thing necessary to raise a child, but that's nowhere near raising a child. That's just taking care of a child. Like if I want a pet,
Hmm.
if I want a dog, I gotta make sure I have enough money to buy the food and,
To buy the dog, yeah, and the
yeah,
toys and
and buy the
everything.
dog and get the flea shots and all
Hmm.
that. But it has nothing to do with how I take, like how I raise it, how much attention I give it. I could keep it
How
in a
much love you
cage
give the dog. Yeah.
all day, every day, and just feed it.
Hmm.
I'm taking care of it. I got money, but the dog is
Hmm.
being neglected just as much as it was if it
Okay.
was on the street without any place to go. You see?
Okay, yeah, that's where you're right. Okay, you are right in that regard. A 2-year-old won't recognize that, obviously, but they will recognize. They'll remember the memories they have with them, and they do say the child's most formative part of the brain starts from 0 to 7. So you have until about like 7 to 8 until you've already formed this child and built up the personality of the child and all of that. Um, children don't. I think children are very. How can I say? They'll remember the way that you made them feel, and they'll remember who was there, and they'll remember that emotional, that who did, if something happened, did the person come and give me a hug? Was I, oh, immediately taken in? Did I get that? I hope you understand what I'm saying. Like if they got bit by a dog, for example, at 5 years old, was your mother there for you to like hug you after you got bit by the dog? Because that could lead you to not liking dogs when you are older for some reason and you just don't know why you don't like dogs. But who was
Yeah.
there for you after that? Did your mother give you a hug? Did they comfort you? You safe? Do you feel safe now? I think the children just have to feel safe. If they just feel
Right.
safe, I think they'll be fine. They probably don't, obviously, at 5 know that it's a Nike shoe or it's Adidas jacket or whatever. It's just you as the parent also maybe wanting to give the child everything that you didn't have. So if you didn't have a lot of nice clothes or a lot of nice stuff, you would want to give the child a lot of nice stuff because you didn't have it.
Right.
So I think it works both ways. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
you were
more of
right on that. Yeah.
projection. So what I was trying
Hmm.
to get to is that we're projecting what we didn't have as if it's what they want
They would want.
tangibly.
Hmm.
They may not want the tangibles. They may want the intangibles, which is the hug, which is the memories, which is the time spent. And so what we are really trying to say, I believe, is that we want to get the finance and the things like that out the way so that we can spend more
Hmm.
time with each other. But that's a
Exactly.
whole nother conversation. That's not financial stability. That's financial freedom, opposed to stability, and that's not a
Hmm.
very popular thing that's going on predominantly. Regarding our children. Most of our children are going to school. They're being dropped off because their parents have to work, because the parents are trying to make this financial stability, which they should really be trying to target financial freedom. But
Freedom.
that's a whole
Yeah.
different conversation. So now you were talking about agreeing. I agree with you on that, and I was talking about cooperation. If a family is a team, um, and the children are seeing adults that don't give any qualities of teamwork, um, how does this affect and is affecting us generally speaking, what do you think are the symptoms of us not cooperating? Because we will sign agreements, we'll
Mm-hmm.
sign deals, we'll sign these, and we'll submit papers to teachers. You know, submission meaning I'm agreeing to have you critique my paper.
Yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
agreeing to when you go to the admission department, admissions, submissions, you go to these
Mm-hmm.
admissions departments at the colleges. You mentioned that you went to university or you finished university. That means you are agreeing to a mission, and
Mm-hmm.
to be agreeing to a mission means to be cooperative because you're having a shared mission that you're going after. So the mission of this interview is to give our youth a conversation that is centered around them, opposed to the two people. A lot of people are going over the dynamic between the two people, like me and you, and putting us head to head and saying who's doing this and who's doing this, and who's right and who's wrong. This is not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about from how can we be empathetic and look at it from their point of view. And as me being a
Mm-hmm.
teacher and a coach, that's kind of how everything you structure is around. Even your professor, that's how it's supposed to be structured. Is that everything in the lesson plan that they create for you is supposed to make you a better person, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, right? So this is a podcast that's outside of the school that's going to educate the kids on these different qualities, the intangible qualities, because the tangible
Mm-hmm.
stuff we can get them all day. We can get them the toys, we can get, but that all is very short-lived, like a lie. But if you
Yeah.
have things
Mm-hmm.
like qualities that we're going over, honesty, we went over empathy and intuition. These things that obviously need to be developed more so that we can talk about them more. Cooperation. How do you feel that if you see someone, if a kid sees his parents at odds all the time, which we say, I grew up seeing my parents argue. That means a lack of agreement. That means a lack of cooperation. How does that affect us when we were kids? If you were to step back as you were a kid, what did that? What was your thoughts? What was your emotions on how that felt? What did that feel like seeing if you saw? Because if you didn't see it, you're among the rare kids who didn't see and they saw actual
Mm-hmm.
cooperation in the household. But if you didn't see, or if you can step yourself out, you're into acting and whatnot. If you can step yourself out of yourself and think of other kids seeing someone argue, how does that feel? And what's generally the emotion of the kid? What do they generally want to happen in that situation?
Um, I did experience that, and it makes me suck at teamwork. I don't like working with people, but it makes the child feel, um, yo, actually, I have to go way, way back now. Um, it makes them feel like their opinion isn't like valid of some sort.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
No, it
Because
makes.
if the one parent said, I the sky is purple and I think the sky is purple, and the other one said, but the sky is blue, can you not see that the sky is blue? And then
Right.
argument ensues. Then what if the child sides with one of the parents, and then they might feel that the other one's opinion wasn't valid and they weren't heard, and then you somewhat grow up thinking that your opinion isn't valid and it's not, you don't need to speak up. And also it makes the child maybe think that everything has to be resolved in that way, like you come up with defense immediately as soon as somebody asks you something without even like trying to hear the other person's point of view.
Good
So
point.
perspective, it affects the child's perspective completely. And if you see that enough over time, for the whole time, you just assume you already have that defense like built in. Like if someone says something mean to me, okay, no, I need to have a comeback. So if you
Mm.
didn't see that as a child, two people, like when me and my mother make stuff, we'll always be like, oh, teamwork makes the dream work. Or if we can clean the house quicker, then I'll be like, teamwork makes the dream work, just so that we can get it done. Um, so if the child doesn't see that, they'll just not want to cooperate with anybody. I know I for a long time didn't see the other person's perspective. Immediately, if somebody said something to me, I'd be like, how can I rebut? How can I?
Right.
in that defensive mode already. So they will not be able to cooperate with a lot of people for a while until they work on it themselves and actively like do that. Like now I have to start liking teamwork because I have to start working in varsity. We had so many projects, and like you said, like you submit and you agree to work in a team together, the eight of us doing this research paper or whatever, and I'm doing A, you doing B, C, D, etc. And then that's when you also like forced to learn to work with people when you go to uni or college or any other like type of institution where you learn with people. Then I was forced to work with them and I had to work on that, and now I'm much better, but I hated it. I Even in school I did not like it at all. It sucked,
Right.
but I'm much better at it now. So I hope perspective, it affects the child's perspective, definitely. Perspective of the other person, being able to see the other person's perspective and hearing what they say before you respond and actually like listening to it.
Right. No, that's very good points. Is like, because what I'm hearing is like that. What happens is the child is not the one that I guess hit me a lot is like they don't feel their opinion is valuable,
Yeah.
or maybe they get an unbalanced dominance of an opinion or a fact or whatever. So one parent is more dominant in
Then the
holding
other
the
one.
conversation or the debate or the argument.
Yep.
So these are those subtle. Because when I look at trauma, it's like a. I think there's a lot of sophisticated terms for really simple things right now. Trauma is bad memories, and it can be a subtle bad memory of seeing your parents argue, um, or it could be something very tragic. What most of the mainstream hits on is these,
Mm-hmm.
very extreme
Mm-hmm.
bad memories, which are like, abuse. Because abuse is like on the far end of the spectrum as far as bad memories.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then we have to see what's on the far end of good memory. You mentioned, someone hugging you. That's a subtle good memory. But
Yeah.
then you have these like
Mm-hmm.
huge memories. For me, I think one of the biggest memories where I felt like my opinion was valued was when I got something tangible with an intangible thought. For example, my mother gave me a gift or most of the gifts she would give, they were gifts that let me know she was actually listening, opposed to giving me
Oh.
what she wanted. Right? I want, if I was saying, for a year, I was like, I would love to have these Kobe Bryant shoes or whatever shoes. I wouldn't think of it, and then all of a sudden, Christmas comes around. I'm like, "Oh, mom, you were listening. Those are those
Yeah,
Kobe
and she
Bryant
actually
shoes I
got
was
the
talking about,
shoes.
or those Scottie Pippen." I never wanted what everybody wanted. I always wanted something weird. Scottie Pippen. I didn't want the Michael Jordans like everybody, but stuff like that is on the higher end of the spectrum when a child feels like they've been listened to. So, you mentioned something, and it wanted me to go back to honesty. And now that the audio is back, would you? I was watching a video, and there was this kid that was playing video games, and
Uh-huh.
his mother said he said a swear word or a profane word while he was playing, and because he knows that profane language is not allowed in the house, although that would you agree that if you say a profane word as a child, that you've learned it from somewhere else? It wasn't something you just created on your own.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so you have
Definitely.
to hear it from someone else. So he probably heard this profane term from someone else, and he
Mm-hmm.
said it while playing the game, and he didn't know his mom was like, "Here's what I believe is a very subtle, not so subtle, traumatic event for him or a bad memory." Where so his mother comes and she says, "Did you just use that profane word?" And he says, "No, I didn't," because he doesn't want to get a whooping, which
Yeah, yeah.
he doesn't want to get a
Uh-huh.
beating. So he says, "No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. I didn't say nothing." And she was like, "You better not say nothing." And so this leads to this whole honesty thing. Is that would you agree that some kids or a lot of kids um, choose to be dishonest to prevent themselves from having a bad memory or to be punished in a very harsh manner to get beat,
Mm-hmm.
basically, or to be punished harshly for literally doing what they were educated to do? It wasn't something that they said, and manifested. It was something they saw someone else say and manifest, and then they used it in the same manner that they saw. So would you say a lot of people become dishonest out of fear of being
To
punished?
protect themselves,
Well, yeah,
like
to
in order
protect
for
themselves.
protection.
Yeah, literally.
Definitely, definitely. Like a big example of that, if your child is, if you had a project or you had like something to give in and you just didn't give it in,
Mm,
and maybe you signed like the permission slip, your parents' signature on the slip to go somewhere and they didn't like read it, and you know that if you own up to it and you say,